Have you ever watched a movie or read a book in which something surprising happens that the main characters are unaware of? Perhaps it's the hero's best friend secretly being a member of an evil organization, or maybe it's a character who is believed to have been killed off, revealing that they are still alive. These are examples of dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is a plot device in which the audience learns something before the characters do. It can be rather difficult for writers to execute dramatic irony in a way that helps the story. In fact, there are many times when a writer's use of dramatic irony can ruin what could have been a big reveal if executed at another time. The Last of Us is one of the few stories that has an amazing use of dramatic irony. In fact, these video games use all three types of irony, the other two being verbal and situational, so brilliantly that their stories wouldn't be as impactful without them. I decided to take 10 of the uses of each type of irony found in The Last of Us and make 3 separate videos ranking them, this being the first. I am ranking these uses of dramatic irony based on how well I think they were written and the impact that they made on the overall story. Starting at number 10, Joel didn't know that the people who captured Ellie were the same people who attacked him at the university. In the final hours of The Last of Us Part 1, Joel and Ellie went to the University of Eastern Colorado, believing that the fireflies would be there. Instead, a group of people suddenly attacked them and almost killed Joel, forcing Ellie to protect him. This changed the dynamic of their relationship, as she needed to provide for him while he was unconscious for months. Ellie eventually met the leader of this group, David, who gave her medicine to give to Joel, only to have his people follow her and find out where they were staying. When Ellie saw them, she fled, hoping that they would be so distracted by pursuing her that they would stop searching for Joel. However, she soon got captured and learned that these new enemies were cannibals. Joel woke up and searched for Ellie, killing many of the cannibals in his path. All that he knew about this, however, was that they were trying to kill him and that they had captured Ellie. He didn't know that this was the same group that he fought at the university, and it is unclear whether or not he ever learned this, seeing as how Ellie bottled up the trauma she faced at the lakeside resort and didn't want to talk about it. This use of dramatic irony doesn't do much for the overall story, which is why I put it in 10th place, but it does show how protective of Ellie Joel became, as he would do anything to find her even if he didn't understand the situation that was going on around him. Luckily, he made the right call. Number 9. The people of Jackson had no idea that Joel was dying when they searched for him. In the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2, Joel and Tommy went on patrol early in the morning. Jesse, the leader of the patrolmen, waited for them to return after sending the rest of the groups out. He feared that something bad had happened to them when they didn't come back for a long time and went out to search for them. He came across Dina and Ellie and told them what was going on, causing them to split up to find the Miller brothers. Players already knew at this point that Joel and Tommy had come across a violent group of people, the Salt Lake Crew, who had knocked Tommy out and brutally beaten Joel. Ellie was the first to find them, hearing Joel's screams and going inside of the house that he was in. At first, she tried to defend Joel, but she was outnumbered and begged the Salt Lake Crew's leader, Abby, to spare Joel. Instead, Abby took one final swing with her golf club at Joel's head, ending his life. Dina later found Ellie and Tommy, with the rest of Jackson learning what had happened after that. Seeing as how Joel is such a beloved character and the hero of the first game, having the players know what was going on before Ellie did was quite impactful. It made playing as Ellie while searching for Joel all the more emotional, as fans would want to find him even more than she did. It also caused fans to worry about Joel for a longer period of time than they would have if they discovered what was going on at the same time that Ellie did, making it hurt even more when he died. Number 8. Sam got bit. When Ellie and Joel went to Pittsburgh in The Last of Us Part 1, they teamed up with 2 brothers, Henry and Sam. Together, they fought against a bunch of hunters and infected alike. Seeing as how the group found themselves in such an intense fight, it seemed like a miracle that all 4 of them made it out alive. Henry, Joel, and Ellie spent some time with each other that night, goofing around, thinking that they were completely safe, before Ellie went to check on Sam, who kept to himself in the next room. Ellie was able to tell that something was wrong with Sam, but he didn't tell her what was going on, instead asking how she is never scared, as he believed her to be fearless. She told him that her greatest fear was to end up alone. which, side note, was an amazing use of foreshadowing to the end of The Last of Us Part 2, another plot device The Last of Us excels at. She then asked him what he was afraid of, and he told her how scared he was of becoming infected. Ellie tried to reassure him that everything would be fine and went to sleep, thinking that she managed to make Sam feel better. However, when she left the room and closed the door behind her, Sam sat down on a chair and pulled his left pant leg up, looking at the bite he received earlier that day. Revealing that Sam had gotten bit this way made the scene so much sadder, knowing what he was really thinking in the moments before his death, but not wanting to tell the others. The following morning, Henry, Ellie, and Joel would learn what had happened as he had turned. Sam attacked Ellie and Henry defended her by killing his brother before shooting himself in the head. Joel and Ellie, along with the players, were left in shock and sadness by what they witnessed, and this was easily one of the darkest moments in the first game. Number 7. The Jackson crew had no idea that Ellie Surgeon was Abby's father. At the end of The Last of Us Part 1, Joel killed a bunch of fireflies in order to save Ellie. One of these fireflies was Jerry Anderson, who was going to perform the surgery that would have killed the immune girl. When the original game was released, players had no idea that this surgeon would end up being one of the most important characters in the series, and throughout the first half of the second game, both the main characters and players alike didn't know why Abby and her friends had killed Joel. However, when players take control of Abby, they learn that she's Jerry's daughter. Jerry had also formed good relationships with Abby's friends, supporting her relationship with Owen and being Mel's mentor. For that reason, it's no wonder why they all wanted to avenge him and kill Joel. While the players could understand the Salt Lake crew's perspective on the conflict, the people of Jackson never learned who Jerry was to their enemies. This use of dramatic irony allows players to understand both Ellie and Abby's side of things, without the characters knowing more about each other, as they would likely be more understanding towards one another if they knew where they came from. Number 6. Riley was killed. At the end of The Last of Us Part 1, Ellie told Joel that she was with a friend of hers, Riley, when she had gotten bit. Unlike Ellie, however, Riley wasn't immune to the cordyceps, so she had died very quickly. While she wasn't seen in the original game, Riley did appear in the Left Behind DLC, which shows the events leading to her death, and the American Dreams prequel comic, which reveals how she met Ellie. Due to the release order of these installments, and the fact that Naughty Dog suggests experiencing The Last of Us Part 1 before Left Behind, most fans should already know that Riley would ultimately die before being introduced to her, which, in some ways, makes these prequels sadder, even if it does take away the shock value of Riley's death. Number 5. Ellie and Abby had no idea that they were in the hospital at the same time. The majority of The Last of Us Part 2 takes place across 3 days, in which players first control Ellie and then Abby. During the second day, Ellie went to the Wolf Hospital in her search for Abby and her friends. There, she found Nora, who tried to run away from Ellie but ended up breathing in spores in the process, allowing Ellie to interrogate her. If fans pay close enough attention, they can hear a mysterious noise in the background. When taking control of Abby, fans learned that she had arrived at the hospital moments before Ellie had. She had gone there to gather medical supplies to help a Seraphite who saved her life, which the other wolves would not have approved of. Seeing as how she wasn't supposed to be there, the wolves planned on bringing her back to their base, but Nora helped her get to an underground part of the hospital where the supplies she needed ended up being. However, Abby would soon come across the Rat King, a terrifying boss that is a mix of multiple infected. The noise that players could hear while Ellie interrogated Nora was the Rat King's growl, an amazing detail that shows how great The Last of Us Part 2 really is. While some fans may have missed the fact that Ellie and Abby just missed each other, neither of them ever knew how close they were. Number 4. It took a long time for Ellie to know about Joel's past. The Last of Us Part 1 begins on Outbreak Day. Before then, Joel lived a simple life as a contractor and was close to Tommy and Sarah. However, when the apocalypse began, Sarah was murdered by a soldier, forever changing Joel. He distanced himself from nearly everyone around him and was a much more serious person by the time Ellie met him. Unlike the players, Ellie didn't know why Joel seemed to resent her and want nothing to do with her, causing them to have a very difficult dynamic in the first few hours of The Last of Us Part 1. While the two would get closer throughout the months, he still kept his past to himself, only telling Ellie what she needed to know, such as him and Tommy having a fallout. It actually wasn't until the two had first arrived at Jackson when Ellie learned about Joel's past, as Maria had told her everything. Joel keeping so much from Ellie made their interactions more interesting, as the two of them went from polar opposites who could barely get along to having such a close father-daughter relationship that may not have been the same if Joel was more open towards her in the beginning of the game. Number 3. Most people didn't know about Ellie's immunity. When Joel, Ellie, and Tess left Boston, the smugglers learned that the young girl was immune to the cordyceps, which Joel told her to keep a secret from everyone. Ellie respected his wishes and eventually agreed with him, only telling people who she really trusted. This has led to a lot of interesting moments throughout both games, such as when David and James were about to kill her and she used her immunity to retaliate, or when Dina saw Ellie breathe in spores and almost sacrificed herself to give her girlfriend her mask. There are so many times that dramatic irony is used throughout The Last of Us simply due to the fact that fans know that Ellie is immune, while the majority of those around her do not. Number 2. Abby was unaware that her friends were being killed. After the Salt Lake crew had left Jackson, they never expected to run into Ellie or Tommy again. However, throughout the game, those that loved Joel had found Abby's friends and killed them one by one. Abby wouldn't know that any of her friends had died until the third day in the Jackson crew's slaughter. Abby first saw Manny get shot by Tommy and later found Mel and Owen's corpses, who were killed by Ellie. Little did she know that other characters, like Nora and Jordan, were already dead. Once the tables turn and fans have to play as Abby, they get to see her final interactions with some of these characters, which makes her learning that someone had killed all of them so much sadder and more meaningful. And finally, at number 1, Ellie didn't know that the fireflies were going to kill her, nor that Joel had saved her life. The main goal of The Last of Us Part 1 was to find the fireflies, so many players were surprised to learn that this group would be the last enemies they had to face, as Joel killed them in order to save Ellie upon learning that they planned on sacrificing her to find a cure. Ellie was unconscious before Joel had found her, and nobody had told her that she would have died if they had gone through with the surgery. When Ellie woke up in Joel's car, she was confused by what happened, and Joel lied to her, saying that there were dozens of immune people, but that the fireflies were unable to find a cure. Ellie was unsure of whether or not he was telling the truth, but chose to believe him when he swore that he was. As fans knew what had really happened, they waited for the second game to come out to finally see if and how Ellie would discover the truth. Her suspicions of Joel had grown over time, and she decided to return to the Firefly Hospital, coming across a recording that left her with no choice but to confront Joel, telling him that she wouldn't return to Jackson if he lied. He told her everything, and while she did go back home with him, she also pushed him out of her life, not being able to forgive him for allowing people to still be infected by the cordyceps. Joel's decision set up the entire second game and shaped the future of Ellie's arc. These examples of dramatic irony are what I consider to be some of the best in not only The Last of Us, but storytelling in general. Next, I'll be covering verbal irony, so stay tuned if you like this video by subscribing. I'd also appreciate it if you liked the video and left a comment letting me know if there are other literary devices you would like me to make a video on. Thank you for watching, and have an amazing day.